Welcome to a journey of emotion, where memories aren't just remembered, but relived in every breath. There are towns that don't appear on any map, but they live vividly in the hearts of millions. Mayberry is one of those places, a fictional town without crime, without chaos, only small stories told with big humanity. Behind that peaceful world lies a tapestry of lives, souls who lived and breathed every frame of black and white film. It started in a place that doesn't exist, but the emotions were real. A journey back to Mayberry, where kindness was once told through laughter and warm embraces. Andy Griffith. The name became synonymous with a sheriff who never wore a gun. Andy Taylor didn't solve problems with force, but with empathy. Every issue in town was resolved with patience and heart. And perhaps that's why Andy became the ideal father figure for a generation of Americans. What do you think? If there were more fathers like Andy, would the world be better? Beside Andy was his young son, Opie Taylor, played by Ron Howard. A boy with wide eyes, always asking questions that made grown-ups stop and think. Their relationship wasn't flashy. It was nods, hands on shoulders, and quiet summers of learning. Opie was the mirror reflecting his father's values. Today, you might see Ron Howard on the Oscar stage, holding the golden statue. But few know that he first learned storytelling, not from film school, but from the way his father looked at him in each Mayberry scene. That was his first lesson in emotion, without dialogue. There was something special in Mayberry. Even the smallest stories were told with great care. Whether it was a lost bicycle or a missing dog, it all mattered, because people mattered more. And when Mayberry needed a laugh, Don Knotts would arrive as the bumbling, anxious, and lovable deputy Barney Fife. Barney brought laughter but also mirrored the insecurity of those who just want to be helpful. Haven't we all been a little like Barney, trying our best, fumbling anyway? Would you relate to that charming awkwardness? Few people know. During the early filming days, Don Knotts once wrote a letter to Andy Griffith with an unusual promise. If I can make you laugh when the cameras aren't rolling, then I've done my job. And he did. Barney Fife was born from that vow. The magic is, these characters didn't just live in scripts. They lived in the hearts of viewers. Every time the whistling theme plays, we return to a better version of ourselves. But Mayberry wasn't all sunshine. And that is where the real story begins. Click the next video to discover the quiet tragedies behind the laughter, the fading souls of Mayberry. When the lights of a film set go out, not everyone leaves to a standing ovation. Some walk away quietly, carrying sadness the audience never saw. In the world of Mayberry, there were souls like that. Actors who gave us laughter, and then quietly faded into the shadows of real life. Frances Bavier, who played Aunt B. Taylor, was the embodiment of gentleness, a motherly figure who cooked, cared, and offered endless comfort. On screen, she was the heart of Andy Taylor's home. But in real life, Frances lived in deep solitude. After the show ended, she moved to a small town in North Carolina, lived alone, refused interviews, and declined public events. She once confessed, "I was difficult, but Aunt B was everything I wished I could be." When she passed in 1989, her home was filled with letters from fans, unaware that the woman they loved had spent her last years in quiet isolation. Do you think fame can sometimes make people feel lonelier? Howard McNear, who portrayed Floyd Lawson, the absent-minded barber, was one of Mayberry's most lovable characters. but few knew that he had suffered a stroke during the show's run. The left side of his body was paralyzed, and the crew adapted every scene so he could sit or lean discreetly. Floyd still smiled and joked, but off camera, there was pain, rehab, and fatigue. Eventually, he left the show due to worsening health and died in 1969. His story reminds us that actors often give everything just to make the audience laugh once more. Have you ever thought about the wounds behind the scenes, the things no camera could ever capture? Jack Dodson, who played Howard Sprague, was gentle, awkward, and sincere on screen. In real life, Jack was serious, private, and quietly devoted to his craft. He passed from heart failure in 1994 without media fuss, no public memorial. But for fans of Mayberry, his image remains, like an old friend who never said goodbye. If you still believe in a world where kindness matters, subscribe. Every follower is a gentle bell echoing the timeless values Mayberry once held dear. Then there was Hope Summers, Clara Edwards, the gossiping yet good-hearted elder. She was the voice of Mrs. Butterworth for nearly 2 decades, but few knew her face. When she passed in 1979, Hollywood was silent. But candles burned all night in Mattoon, her hometown. Some stars shine without a spotlight because they glow from within. Do you know anyone like that? One by one, they left. And yet, Mayberry remains. Their laughter lives on in reruns, in rainy day marathons, and in the hearts of those who once believed in a gentler world. If you're still here, stay with us for the next chapter, where those who remained tell Mayberry's story in their own way. Ron Howard, the boy who once played Opie, is now one of the most respected directors in Hollywood. But what makes him remarkable isn't just the awards or fame, it's how he carried Mayberry into every frame of film he created. Ron once said, "I learned storytelling from the way Andy looked at me." He didn't study acting. He learned to cherish silence, kindness, and meaningful glances. From those early moments, he shaped masterpieces like A Beautiful Mind, Apollo 13, and The Da Vinci Code, films that blended precision with heart. Though he stepped out of Mayberry, the spirit of it never left him. Have you ever felt that in his films? Jim Nabors, who played Gomer Pyle, not only made people laugh, but also moved an entire nation with his singing voice. From a bumbling gas station attendant, Jim became a beloved baritone opera singer, best known for his powerful and heartfelt voice. He sang the national anthem at the Indianapolis 500, and the stadium fell silent to listen. Jim proved that behind comedy lies depth, and behind the naive Gomer was a soulful man. He often said, "I loved that role because Gomer taught me to live sincerely." Do you remember the last time you saw Jim Nabors on screen? Betty Lynn, who portrayed Thelma Lou, may not have appeared as often as other characters, but every time she did, she brought warmth to Mayberry. After leaving Hollywood, Betty moved to Mount Airy, the real-life town that inspired Mayberry. There, she lived among fans, sharing behind-the-scenes memories, signing autographs, and embracing a quiet, joyful life. She once said, "In Mount Airy, I'm no longer Thelma Lou, I'm just myself." Her story proves that sometimes a role doesn't end on screen. It continues in real life. Would you ever want to visit Mount Airy to feel that spirit? George Lindsay, who played Goober Pyle, may not have been as famous as Gomer, but he left a deep impression. Goober was the goofy, honest character who brought rustic laughter. But George was more than an actor. He was a community figure, a show host, and always returned for Mayberry reunions. For 30 years after the show ended, he never left the role of Goober, not because he was stuck, but because he chose to hold on to the best part of his life. Isn't that a choice worth making? To live forever in what makes others smile? In the previous chapter, we said our goodbyes. In this one, we heard echoes of love, carried on by those who stayed and chose to preserve Mayberry in their own way. Click to continue to the next chapter, where we explore the behind-the-scenes truths that were never told. Richard Keith, who played young Johnny Paul Jason, wasn't a major star, but he became an unforgettable part of childhood memories. In brief moments, he appeared as Opie Taylor's loyal friend. What's remarkable is that after leaving Mayberry, Richard didn't pursue acting, but chose music and community life instead. He became a drummer and arts educator, inspiring younger generations through creativity. When asked about Johnny Paul, he once said, "I don't need much screen time to be remembered, just one honest moment is enough." Do you still remember that young boy's face, the one who ran with Opie through nameless summers? Paul Hartman, who played Emmett Clark, may have been a lesser-known character in Mayberry, but he had one of the richest artistic backgrounds among the cast. Before coming to television, Paul was a seasoned Broadway dancer, having graced the grandest stages in America. Emmett was portrayed as a slightly bumbling fix-it man, but in real life, Paul was charming, refined, and incredibly talented. He brought theatrical depth even to the smallest scenes, enriching every line with nuance. When he passed in 1973, many said, "A stage artist lived fully as a storyteller." Perhaps greatness isn't about screen time, but about how deeply others remember you. Hal Smith, who played Otis Campbell, Mayberry's lovable drunk, portrayed a character both comical and quietly thought-provoking. Otis was imperfect, a man lost in drink but never in kindness. Ironically, Hal Smith in real life was the complete opposite. He didn't drink, lived with discipline, and had a background in radio broadcasting. After the show, he built a successful voice acting career, becoming the beloved voice in children's programs, including some versions of Winnie the Pooh. Hal Smith proved that a role can transcend its stereotype, from a bumbling drunk to a cultural icon adored by children. Have you ever noticed? Sometimes the smallest roles open windows straight into the audience's heart. Maeva Gianni Marshall, an international model who once appeared in a special episode tied to Mayberry, is living proof of the show's cultural reach beyond borders. Though only a guest star in a later spin-off, she once shared how Mayberry helped her appreciate the simplicity and value of traditional American family life. In an interview, Maeva said, "I grew up in France, but Mayberry made me want to raise kids in a place where laughter rings out at dinner. It's something few expected, that an old show could sow seeds of cultural longing across nations." Have you ever known a fictional town that felt more real than most places on Earth? If light is what draws our attention, then darkness is where we truly understand. Click to continue to the next chapter, where those who remain carry Mayberry forward through the eyes of a new generation. If you still believe in a world where kindness matters, subscribe. Every follower is a gentle bell, echoing the timeless values Mayberry once held dear. Howard Morris, who played Ernest T. Bass, was one of the most eccentric yet unforgettable supporting characters in Mayberry. With his ragged appearance, shrill yelling, and window-smashing habits, Ernest embodied endearing chaos in a town defined by order. Yet few know Howard was a classically trained actor, director, and comedy writer behind major television hits. Ernest appeared only a handful of times, but each moment was explosive and iconic. Howard once said, "I created Ernest as a reminder that even in the best of worlds, a little crazy helps us laugh. Isn't it true that the most offbeat pieces often complete the picture best?" Eleanor Donahue, who played Ellie Walker, didn't stay long on the show, but she carried the memories of Mayberry with her for life. After leaving the series, Eleanor continued acting and frequently appeared at nostalgia conventions with devoted fans. She said, "I don't need a major role to be remembered. I just need someone to say Ellie once made them smile." To fans, Eleanor wasn't just Ellie. She was a living memory of a gentler time. Isn't it true that sometimes those who leave early end up holding on to the dream the longest? Ken Barry, who played Sam Jones in the follow-up series Mayberry RFD, may not be remembered like Andy or Barney, but he was the one who kept Mayberry alive for a few more years. During a time of transition in American TV, Ken portrayed a father, a mayor, and a model citizen, the kind of character Mayberry needed to survive its post-Golden era. Though the series didn't last long, Ken remained in the hearts of those who believed goodness and simplicity still had a place. He once said, "I didn't have to be the first. I just wanted to keep the fire burning when things started to go cold." Isn't that perhaps the quietest yet most important role of all? Jack Burns, who replaced Don Knotts as Deputy Warren Ferguson in Season 6, proved that while you can't replace a legend, you can still leave your own mark. Though he only stayed for one season, Jack brought a different view of justice, less comedic but equally loyal to Mayberry's spirit. He later became a writer, shaping sitcoms like The Muppet Show and Hee Haw. Audiences may not remember his face, but they're still laughing at the lines he penned. Isn't it true that sometimes the storyteller doesn't need to be in front of the screen? Sometimes those who remain aren't just keepers of memory, but reminders that goodness can still live on through new stories. Click to continue to the final chapter, where Mayberry fades from the screen, but never from the heart of the world. Mayberry ended long ago on the small screen. But can a place like that truly disappear? No. Mayberry wasn't just a town. It was an idea, a feeling that people carry in their hearts. It's the place where Andy and Opie's whistling echoes whenever we need peace. It's the hill where Opie tossed stones into the river, a reminder of a childhood free from pressure, social media, and full of simple kindness. Mayberry, though no longer physical, lives on in millions of memories, through old VHS tapes, TV reruns, and the family stories passed down over generations. Someone once said, "You can't go back to Mayberry, but you can carry it in your heart forever." That's why, more than half a century later, people still search for it. Not on a map, but in the way they choose to live. When they choose kindness in a harsh world. When they smile at strangers, offer help without condition, or simply sit down to dinner with family without rushing. Those seemingly small moments, that's Mayberry living on through us. Do you feel it's still here with you right now? And then, when we look back at the characters who passed through our lives, from Andy, Barney, Opie to those rarely named, we realize something. They never truly left. They simply moved from the screen into our subconscious. In every slow-living choice, every tight hug, every gentle word, every action without motive. Mayberry isn't just a memory, it's a reminder that no matter how much society changes, kindness is never outdated. Thank you for staying until the final chapter. Perhaps this video wasn't just a journey through a TV series, but a journey to rediscover a better version of ourselves. If you find a little Mayberry in your heart, hold on to it, share it, and become the one who continues to tell its story. Because Mayberry will never die, as long as we believe in kindness. See you in the next story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if this video left a mark on you. Hit subscribe to help us keep these timeless stories and simple kindness alive. Because every subscriber is like a small lantern, keeping Mayberry shining in the hearts of those who remember,